We here at Cutscene Conversations want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And what better way to end season 3 than with two of the most thankful people that we've ever met. And with good reason. So Cole, Kat, we miss you, we love you, and we are truly thankful for you.
Welcome to Cutscene Conversations, where we explore lives one story at a time. What's up, Tim? What are we doing today?
Clearly, we are interviewing Cole and Kat.
Hello.
Woo!
There's the energy. There's the energy. Glad to be back.
It's been too long. As it was brought to our attention, whatever time this one airs, whatever part of the series, this is the last one we are doing recording.
Correct.
Sorry, it's the last one in the timeline that we're recording.
Yep.
Cole, season 1, no video.
No video.
Audio only was our first interview.
Yep.
I brought up all kinds of things about husky
pants.
pants.
Oh, man, that was a good one.
That was the guinea pig episode.
It was the guinea pig episode. It was literally, I want to say it was like, hey, do we want to ask if we could bring Cole on? Yeah, let's do it. That's literally, that was the amount of planning.
And what was really cool is like Cole was like, yeah, I'm game, you can interview me. And then he didn't realize that I was going to like deep dive into his life.
He does this to me all the time too, though. This doesn't take the podcast for him to hurt your feelings like that.
Well, see, the show, I was just talking to him, we all evolve, and the show has evolved. One thing that's different this go around is Jesse actually asked me, hey, is there anything like that you don't want to talk about? Because the first go around,
I did ask.
It was, hey, what's the most way we can embarrass you possible?
Yeah, that's pretty much, I think that, Tim, when you investigate, that's normally your goal.
My goal is to ask questions. You have no idea how I got the questions.
Yes, but I
want you to know, who did you talk to?
I feel like we're more cultured with how we ask them.
No, I've done that every time.
That's true. That's true.
I've done it every time.
Yeah. Anyways, so
life has changed.
I
mean, for the last 3-4 years we've been doing this. We've gone from audio to just us sitting around in the old studio.
Yeah.
The what we call it, 5K studio.
5K studio.
5K studio.
The best.
To adding video and a crew behind the camera and social media and different little segments. Y'all have changed a bit too.
A little bit, yeah.
We have.
So first thing we're going to talk about, and if you hear it in the background, y'all have some awesome news you can share.
Yeah. We had a baby since the last time we were on here. Yeah. I think the last time I would have been on here, I might have been pregnant. Maybe very early on.
Season 2 recording.
Potentially.
Maybe. I don't know.
Pink sweatshirt with a hat. We were still in Millington.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I might have been, very early on.
So the roundtable recording,
Yeah. A lot's changed since
then.
then.
Yeah, we have little Jane, our little girl. She's the best ever.
She's
amazing.
She's 4 months old and the slowest and quickest 4 months of my life, I feel like. But
Yes.
It's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Totally life-changing for sure. So,
So how so? How's it been life-changing?
I mean, it just changed like everything, I feel like. I mean, for me, I didn't carry her, obviously. But for me, it was just like the shift in the responsibility, the shift in just like having to grow up, and I thought I was growing and then I had her. And then you really like, everyone tells you before, like, hey, it's going to be so great. Everything's going to change, you know. And I'm like, oh, sure. And like, you're just going to love them so great. And I'm like, for sure I'm going to love them, But like, until we had her, we didn't know what that meant, So me, like, it just completely changed my perspective on how you can love something or someone,
Right.
Yeah.
So there was a conversation had between Jesse, Jack, and myself where we're like, Cole has no idea. we were like, he's not gonna know.
I know. Yes, she was pregnant on the interview last time because I asked y'all. I said, "Do you have any questions for us?" And I said something to the effect of like, "What advice do you have to give for being a father?"
That's right. So
I did that intentionally.
You found out in the middle of a different interview. We were doing discipleship.
Oh, yes.
We were doing discipleship,
Yeah.
and Cole had to walk out.
Yeah.
And he came back in giddy, Could not focus.
Oh, not at all. I sat down for the lesson.
Then, like, what, 15 minutes later, we were gone, and we were like, well,
Yeah.
that was weird, but, whatever.
I'm sweating. I was like, so anyways, we're reading today about the child. Jesus is the child of God. What do y'all think about that? And I'm like texting Kat, like, what? And then what she said, like, don't tell people.
Yeah.
I'm like making plans. Yeah.
I had been to Nashville like a couple weeks before that and could have sworn I was pregnant. We bought a test and it was 2. It was the initial and then the backup that you're supposed to take. Well, the initial one was negative and I was like, okay, I'm not. So we came home with the backup in the bag. And when I left work that day, I was like, something's not right. Like all day I was like, something's just off, not right. So anyways, I ran in the house and I got home from work. He was at discipleship. Took it, it was positive. And it was the backup that was positive, which meant you are pretty far along at this point. So anyways, that's
And
when
she
I
just called me. And
called and I was like, I need you to answer. Like, I don't care if there's tears right now. Like, I need you to just cut it off, stay outside, and you can. So I was like, if I have to call him 30 times to let him know this is urgent, I will do it.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It seemed like forever again.
It does. It does.
Really, a lot of life lived, but it was great.
I think
thankfully-
June the 7th will be a year since that day.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's June 7th. So
Yeah,
2 days.
For a record, that's like 2 days away.
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
No, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Is that tomorrow?
That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Had a real
Cool.
smooth pregnancy too, and Kat was
Oh,
just
yeah,
a
it was
champion the
awesome.
whole time and ate all the right foods and did
It
the
was
right
great.
stuff and to the last minute. And
I didn't
Then-
have any symptoms at all.
then they told us that like she
Nothing.
was about to be here, like she's probably gonna be early. And we're like, okay, cool. But we had like a snow apocalypse that came
Oh,
through.
yeah.
And so we were like, we don't want to be so far. We drive Nissan Altimas, so not great for snow and that kind of stuff. So we're like, let's be close to the hospital in case this happens, because it's happening like today.
Mhm.
Well, we go stay at the hotel right next to the hospital. We weather the storm and the snow, just like
And I
locked
just
in there.
knew. I was walking on the
And-
treadmill every day. I was
You were
bouncing
like,
on the
"This baby's
exercise
coming."
ball. It was 38 weeks. I was like,
Yeah.
surely to goodness.
She stayed another 2.5. So
She did.
it didn't
She
work
did.
out. But
I was 40 weeks and 3 days when they finally had to induce me. So
Yeah. And then a few little hours later, we had Jane.
a whole
She's been the
almost
best.
24.
The absolute best.
Longest.
So his interpretation was it was a few hours later. You were like, it was 24.
Okay.
24. And I remember that because for half of it, my epidural didn't work. So
Oh.
I labored by myself
And yes,
halfway.
sincerely, you did go through a lot of hard stuff.
It was
But
terrible.
nobody ever talks about what the guys have to struggle through
Um,
in those hospital rooms. Those tiny little beds.
Not
those tiny little chairs.
no.
Not on this boat.
I
with
mean,
him.
we need to do something about that.
Not on this boat with
No,
him at all.
honestly,
Oh,
that was
God.
just a meme I saw when I was there. But I felt bad, but I slept like the first
He slept
every
the
time
whole
I could
time.
get.
I
I
mean-
slept waiting because I was like, I'm not gonna get sleep later, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
sleep right now, and I'll be good later. So
Right.
And I
It
was
worked out.
in excruciating pain for
I mean,
most of the time we were there.
but when he was awake, he was a good moral support, wasn't he?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I don't remember
Yeah.
much. There's something very, very weird about childbirth where you remember everything that happened a couple of weeks after, and then one day it just all
like a
fades
dream.
out.
It's
And
like
it's
having a
like
dream.
I would never do that again because oh my god, that hurt so bad, and like I would never do that again. And then you get like a couple weeks down the road, and it's like I'd do that again.
Oh, it's like going to the gym.
I'd do it again.
It's a much more extreme
I was
version.
about to
Just
say,
like
oh.
much,
It's-
no, not belittling childbirth at all. It's a much more extreme version. Every time I go to the gym, like this sucks, and I get after it, I'm like, yeah, I gotta do that again.
I gotta do that
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I
except for
think-
one's producing the baby
Right.
and one just producing guns.
Oh,
That's the
goodness.
other.
Goodness.
mean,
I think the Lord does that on purpose, though, right? He's like, we're going to take those memories away.
Yeah.
You're going to remember that there was
Right.
but the feelings exactly. He's,
Yeah.
I don't think he would do it again if it didn't.
But
I
yeah,
think he
24
would just
hours
go on.
later, Jane was born. She was purple head to toe, and she was covered in some
goop.
Ugh.
poo.
Yeah.
Goop is the best.
We'll
word.
talk about all
Goop.
that.
It was
Mhm.
bad.
oh, my goodness. I want to say it was Bob Smiley. He's a comedian.
Oh,
And he talked about how nobody warned him that the baby was going to look like it was dipped in motor oil when they had
Yeah, I thankfully was warned, so I didn't freak out. I was aware, it was coming, so I didn't freak out.
Terrible.
And there she is for the
Forgive
background.
her. She's
So welcome back. We had an unscheduled break. Baby Jane needed some attention.
And,
But-
and I needed to sit up and fix camera and not slouch.
We needed to fix some
Yeah.
camera angles.
Good
because
posture.
Jesse
Yeah, good
likes
posture.
messing with our production team. The whole team.
The whole team.
All of them.
The team of one.
You guys should see what's behind the cameras here. It is just massive.
It's the big production
big
value.
production.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, next
You-
level.
You wouldn't
The
understand.
value of what's behind the camera is just
Yeah,
next
stellar.
Oh yeah.
It is.
Interstellar to the stars.
There you go.
I didn't like that movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
I made her
yeah.
watch it.
Why?
And
Sorry.
well, it was
It
just
was
like
too
we
long.
just had to know, and had to just one of the things you had to experience. I feel like, and we got to the end, and she was like,
yeah.
What
"That
the
was
heck?
3.5 hours of my life for that." It was like,
For gravity.
yeah, I mean,
Push the
That's
book off
kind of
the
how I
shelf.
felt after the second Lord of the Rings movie.
I never finished.
So
it.
that was very pointed at me because he knows that Lord of the Rings is my favorite IP.
Yeah.
But you never finished them?
No,
Yeah, I get that.
I'm sorry, brother. I was in 8th grade. My mom were all other things.
Oh, okay, that hit me at a different level. He was in 8th grade.
No, I don't know. That's when it came out. I'm saying that's when my friends
It
were
probably
watching
was.
I
No,
watched
I don't
Fellowship of
think
the
so.
King or Fellowship of the Ring in 6th grade in theaters.
It. Wow.
What year did it come out then?
I don't know, whatever year I was in 6th grade.
Oh my goodness. See, and this is what happens.
Anyway.
Tangent.
We're old, they're young. It works.
That's pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Full 10 years or almost 10 years?
I'm 26.
Yeah, no, 10
I'll be
years.
36
Yeah,
this
10
year.
years.
There you go. You don't look a day over 35.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Don't look at the top of his head.
Well,
Yeah.
next time not next time they see me, next time they'll see me, they'll probably still have hair. But tomorrow I'm planning on getting rid of all of it.
Right? We wanted to film it, and he said no.
No.
Yeah.
There's some things you just need to leave the sacredness of it alone.
Mm.
I don't
I
know
get
if that
it.
applies.
I get it. Outside of having the baby, you had some other interesting things happen right after.
We definitely
Yeah.
did.
How old was Jane? A couple weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2
It was
weeks.
exactly 2
It was
weeks.
2 weeks. Wow.
Yeah,
And
just
you
born on a
decided, and like every good couple, I think that was about the time we waited to go on a date night.
We did.
Friday. We're actually prescribed by her
Our
pediatrician.
pediatrician.
Oh.
Said 2 things: something else and go on a date. And we're
Yep.
like, great. So we did it. Took his advice. And
For
yeah,
a little bit of context for the people, I'm still working on it, but I'm in. I think I was last time too, and that was a question y'all asked me. But I'm in pediatric nurse practitioner school through Vanderbilt, and I'm still working on that, my master's. So when I was having Jane, I just busted it in the months of December leading up and January leading up to her delivery to get my stuff for spring semester done. Well, I had to go to clinical spring semester.
Mm-hmm.
That started in March. Jane was actually born in February, so she was past her due date. So I was busting it to get everything done, but I was in it still having a baby. So that's a little bit of context for what was going on. I chose to continue instead of taking a leave because I was like, oh, it's online, it's 2 classes, it's the least I've ever had. I can do it. We'll find a sitter for March and April, and I'll go to clinical 2 days a week, be home with her the others. So
Feels
anyway.
very logical.
Yeah.
Felt very logical. It's not the first time that I've balanced a lot at one time, so I'm just,
yeah.
I mean, I get sure you'd agree. Like, I've never been like, just focus on one thing. I've always had my hand in multiple, and it's just never done
Yeah, I was like,
it.
oh, we've done hard stuff before. We can do it.
Yeah, I was like, it's fine. Like, I knew it was going to be hard,
Mhm.
and I'd be sleep deprived, but it's like what I love to do. So, and it was the final push. Like, it was going to be February to July, and I was done. So I was like, if I can just, even if I don't make A's, like, if I can just do my best and graduate, like, I don't go back to school again. That's it. So, anyways.
Sorry, the shoe squeaked.
Oh,
I was like,
I
why
thought
do you
something
smile?
outside. I was like,
Cole looked at me when the shoe squeaked. My bad.
oh, man.
But yeah, that was, so we went to her 2-week appointment, and she was looking great, back to birth weight, super fat. She's in the 5% of babies that were back to birth weight at her age. And so he was like, you need to go on a date night. I can't remember what else he said.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. We
Yeah,
had planned
go on a
night,
date,
though, for later
so-
that week. We were like, we're going to go Saturday or something like that.
Yeah.
And this is a Thursday. And I remember coming home and just being like, hey, we're going out tonight. Like I talked to Shauna, my sister, she's going to come watch Jane. Like, we're going on a date night. We just need to go hang out.
Because obviously we'd been in like the trenches of the early days. Like, we were very sleep deprived. I was nursing, so I was the only one that could feed her. We had introduced a bottle. We totally shouldn't have done that because it just didn't work well. But, you know, more now on the other side of things. But we had tried that. It wasn't really working. But anyways, I was nursing her. So I had to get up around the clock anyway. So tired, trying to do school. I think I had a test that week. So anyways,
the day of.
Yeah, the day of.
Yeah, the day of. I had a test that morning.
You took the test.
I did take the
that
test.
day.
Yeah.
And I don't
And she
remember.
passed it.
But I made 78, and I
Yeah.
don't remember taking it. I remember where I sat, which was a very
It was upstairs.
at a horrible place. I
Yeah.
sat not at the desk. So that just goes to show you my mind was just already not.
Well, I didn't pick up on any of the cues.
Yeah.
I didn't at all. We literally were like, let's just go out to date night. Let's
Yeah.
go.
I was sitting upstairs in the rocking chair, just gotten finished feeding her when you got home. And you were
Yeah.
like, let's go out. Let's go on a date. So anyways,
All I have to say, we go out and
Shauna came over.
Kat was just chilling, just in a good mood from what I could tell. Just like, sure, tired. We were both tired, but like, just like excited for the date. Like, let's go hang out. And we're just chilling. We went shopping before,
We did.
then went to our dinner reservation and sat down and just having a good time. Just chilling, had our waters and had our appetizers and
They
stuff.
had us sitting like this, which was very
Yeah,
interesting.
it was like this
It was this
8-person
booth.
booth that we were sitting at.
Where
It's
were
literally side by side.
Southern Social,
Yeah.
Chinatown.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just sitting there, and Kat, we're talking, we're catching up on everything. She just sent my sister a text like, "How's Jane?" kind of stuff.
Yeah, I texted Jane. I called my friend who had a baby 25 days after me. I called her in the bathroom getting ready and was like, we're going on a date, and caught up with her. And then I sent her a picture of us at the table and was like, one thing they don't tell you is all you talk about is your kid when you get out, like on a date. And I didn't even remember doing that. Like, apparently it happened
Yeah, I mean, literally.
minutes
if you had done
after
that-
I sent that. And I asked
We
about
keep saying
Jane.
it happened. The listeners
Yeah,
already
so
know.
Right.
Yeah, it's like
So
you're burying it.
We're,
Sorry.
we're just like
We're
getting
getting there.
there.
So anyways, that's kind of setting it up. So
Yeah.
tell them
So-
from
And
your
then,
perspective.
Yeah, so again, we're sitting there eating, and we're talking, we're side by side, which usually isn't the case. To all the same siders out there, that's not. I mean, do your thing. That's not for us though. But today it was because we was either sit way across the table of this 8-person thing or sit close. We sat close, but we're sitting there and she's talking to me and I'm talking. And she said something. I said like a joke back, and whether it was funny or not, I at least expected like a response from her, like a ha or a whatever.
Sympathy, something at least.
But she didn't say, yeah, right. But she didn't say anything. So I was like,
From my perspective, he said something, and I looked at my water, and all of a sudden I heard this loud, very loud buzzing in my ears, and the room started spinning.
Yeah.
And that's all I remember.
we're letting the listeners just not know what's happening.
Well, I was gonna tell them like I didn't respond
Yeah.
to you, but it was because I heard a super loud buzzing and
So-
the room spun.
I make this hilarious joke, as I said, and but yeah, I said something and she doesn't respond. So I go, I'm like, hey, like I look over and I'm like, I may have repeated myself, and she put her head like she leaned her head like on my shoulder like this, and I was like, oh, like I thought she was being like affectionate. I'm like, what's wrong? And then like her whole body just fell on the table we were on, and obviously I knew something was up, and I thought it was like an allergy because she's allergic to lots of seafood and stuff, and they served it there. So it happens, and it's one of those things like you see it in movies and shows and stuff, and like people like panic or freak out or everything gets like quiet. For me, it was just I couldn't speak. I was like, I saw it happen. I'm saying like no under my breath, and I look over at this table across from me. I pushed the table out, and I just said like in this volume, I was just like, help, help. And the guy looked at me, and it's loud in there, and he just looks at me, and he runs over, and she's just laying there. And to keep in mind, like no health issues prior, no kind of known
Wonderful
seizures,
pregnancy.
nothing like that. Complete like healthy, all the levels, everything. So like we're thinking it's this allergic reaction. She's there, and I don't know, there's a lot of details to it, but she just stopped breathing, and I thought it was I'm running out to the car looking for EpiPen, calling my sister, panicking. I'm like, get Jane, bring the EpiPen, bring it up here to us. Someone had called the ambulance, thankfully, and they're like doing CPR on Kat, and she finally starts breathing. I don't know how long it would have been.
Thankfully, we showed Shauna how to install the car seat before we left.
Yeah,
And that was
thankfully.
a last minute, like,
And
oh,
Jane's
let's just
2
show you
weeks
how to
old.
use
Like,
this.
she's not old. I mean, she's 2 weeks
She
old.
is so
and
small.
And Shauna doesn't have any kids. So, like, I mean, this is her first kind of deal with something like this. But yeah, so I mean, that moment for me, it was only 4 minutes, which is crazy. The ambulance was there in less than 4 minutes.
That is very quick.
Yeah, it was nuts. But they came in, and finally after CPR, maybe a minute, they were, you weren't breathing. Then you started labor breathing like really loud, which is just like thankful you're breathing, and you just weren't yourself. You weren't like, you were alive obviously, but you like weren't there. You couldn't respond. And yeah, it was a mess. Like, I got all like they brought in like the stretcher and turned all the lights on the restaurant. This is like a nicer place. Everyone's like freaking out.
The
we
poor
let her up.
people that were there that night.
Yeah,
Probably so
it was grateful. I
traumatized.
think the guy who was in CPR was like a doctor. He was the one right across the
Yeah.
table, which is cool. And there were people trying to calm me down and all that. But yeah, we loaded up in the ambulance, and thankfully we were really close to a hospital. They took us straight over there, and the whole time, and just I don't know. I've never prayed like that before, because we just don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't funny, but looking back, it's funnier. But like, I'm in the ambulance, and they're like, I'm hearing them in the back, and I'm like panicking. Like, you're not moving, you're not breathing, all this stuff. And I don't know what's going on. We just had a baby, and like just all the emotions. I'm sitting there praying, crying, and I hear in the back they're saying, I heard one of the ambulance guys, the EMT guys, he's like, "Hey, calling it? Okay, yeah, calling it." Which all I know is Grey's Anatomy. They're like, calling it, time of death. So like I hear that, and I like start to lose it almost. And then I said, what's he saying? Talking to the driver, he's like, oh, he's asking if they called in, if the ambulance is coming in, like the hospital to let them know we're coming. I was like, oh.
Lead with that next time, please.
So just so you know, most 99% of people on an ambulance cannot call a time of death.
Good to know now.
Yeah.
Where were you?
I was at home going, I can't do anything to help. Like, it's like I can't do anything. Yeah.
I know it didn't take long for word to get out. You reached a bunch of people who started praying very quickly,
which is amazing. I called Ty and my mom, and I think that was it. And I think my sister knew, and it spread. But I mean,
Your sister was like, thought it was a joke.
yeah, she thought I was messing around at first. And
How bad did she feel?
She heard my voice the second time I said something, and she was like, "Oh, this is serious." And so it was,
I wish we
traumatized her
for her interview.
Yeah, I traumatized her. It was rough.
From my perspective, I remember one clanging, and he said it must have been when they were transferring me from the stretcher and getting me like hooked up in the hospital, because I do remember I just remember chaos.
Yeah.
Like
That or the gurney wheels coming off the ambulance.
that, it could have been.
That's
I
pretty
just
loud.
remember hearing chaos, lots of clanging, lots of people's voices. That's all I remember.
It was a lot of that. We finally got there and got to the ambulance. The ambulance took us to the hospital. We pull up, there's like 15 ambulance trucks waiting in line to get like a place to get a room. And I look at my driver, I'm like, do we have to wait on them? Like what? He said, they're gonna have to wait on you. So I was like, great. Then I was like, that means it's really serious. Like what in the world?
It's like, yay! Oh no.
But yeah, it was. I mean, we were guided right to a room. We didn't have to even stop. We walked right in. They got us to a room, and they ran every test you could possibly run on her. And I mean, there's a lot of details, but the nutshell is for 4 hours she couldn't see or hear or like talk and respond or move. She was breathing. The most I could get for a while there was just her just kind of like nodding her head a little bit, but you had no function of her anything. And it was.
I remember the elevator music in the MRI.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah. It was.
That was the only other thing I
tough.
remember. But yeah.
It was tough. But yeah, I mean, thankfully, we had, like I said, we called friends, and they took her back halfway through that 4 hours to get some tests, and I had like an hour free. And so I met some of my friends in the parking lot. They'd driven up, and it was just great to see them. Saw Jane, but I'm like a wreck at that point because I have no idea what's going on, what happened, and I'm like, at this point, it's been a while. I'm thinking there's like a tumor, there's something like pushing up against your brain. I was thinking all the worst, and came back to the room, and you were at this point, you were looking at me, and you could like see a little, or you couldn't see. You had like your head was up, and you were kind of like talking, but you couldn't see anything. And finally, through the night, once you finally saw me, you were probably confused because your eyesight came back. I'm like on top of you, like crying, and like just bawling my eyeballs out, thanking the Lord for healing you, and you're like forgetting everything, like what's going on. So, anyways, I'll say this part, and then there's some funny stuff. We'll go back.
I thought
Not
it happened
funny,
at
funny.
delivery.
Yeah,
I was so disoriented. So when I woke
She
up,
thought she
I
never
thought
left
that
the
I had
hospital.
delivered Jane. I thought I'd never left the hospital. So
Oh,
I was
wow.
very much disoriented.
long night, but then everything ended up being okay. The doctors couldn't find out what it was. They actually never really for real told us what it was, except for like exhaustion and stuff. And she was cleared.
Dehydration.
The biggest thing that hit was like lack of memory and stuff like that. But like, yeah, it was something. The whole thing you talking about, like not being able to, you thought you were in the hospital still. They had we just got in the ER. We're taking her. They want to take her to get X-rays, and they're like making sure she has some metal and stuff on her and all this. I'm like, yeah. Well, the nurse comes up to me, and she said, hey, is there is she pregnant? I was like, no, we just had a baby 2 weeks ago. She said, she's telling me that she's pregnant right now. Like, I guess she would squeeze her hand or something to say like, I'm pregnant. And I was like, so for a minute there, I've got all this stuff running through my mind. And I'm not thinking straight. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, like, why wouldn't she tell me that she's, what?
Hey, Cole.
I mean, and then I went, wait a second. I started thinking about the math and I was like, no, there's no way she's pregnant right now. Like, and the nurse is just laughing at me. She's like, okay. I was like, she said, so no baby there. I was like, baby is in the parking lot with my sister. Like, she not in there. She's like, okay, good, and then right after
He forgot
that,
biology for a second.
Yeah. Right after
in
that,
the moment, I get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I forgot about this too. Right after that, we go in and you'll have your time to talk. You just weren't stable. This is your story, I'm making about me. But
It's your story. You
you'll
don't
have plenty of
remember.
time.
I know.
This is my last thing about it. But we're going back. Right after that, we walked to get your scan done, and like you're leaving, and this is just super emotional. Like I'm holding your hand, and you're just like tears are coming, but you're not doing anything, and it was horrible. You go back. I'm sitting down. I leave this little waiting room. I sit in this little waiting room.
It's the worst.
I've got my head down. I'm just like this, and I'm just silently bawling my eyeballs out. Like I'm just like sitting here like this, just tears going crazy. Like what is happening? Praying, and not knowing what's going on. And there's this like machine in front of me, and it's like this. It looks like just one of the machines they carry around that has all the check-in vitals and stuff. So I'm just sitting there. Well, then there's a screen on it, and I hear something. I'm like, what? And they're saying, what were they saying? Cody or something.
No.
No, it wasn't
What
Cody.
was it?
It
What
was,
was the name?
What was it? Something with a C. Connor, Carl, something like that.
Something.
We're going to say Carl because that's a good name. But they're like, this guy, he says, Carl. And I'm like looking at the screen. I see this guy's face on this monitor. He's looking at me. I'm like, what? He said, Carl? I said, I'm like, no, man, there's no Carl here. He goes, okay. And he said on the screen. And I'm like, so I put my head back down, just like shaking. I'm just like, what in the world? And I hear him go, I'm just gonna put you on mute. I was like, thank you. Like he can't move. He's a guy on the screen. And he's in this robot thing. And so then some nurse comes by and shuts it off and like whatever. So I'm like, that was
You
horrible.
didn't tell Carl bye or?
No. So then they get us back to the room like 30 minutes or an hour later. They're like, we're gonna bring the neurologist in to check out stuff for neurology. Well, they wheel in this guy with the monitor and stuff. He's in the room and he's like starts talking to us some questions. And I'm like, that's strange. Whatever. Not really caring about it. Then the guy comes up. He's like, hey, Carl, can you have your money? I'm like, what? My name? I'm Cole. He's like, oh. I'm like, you're holding my insurance card with my name on it. Like, that's not like Cole. And so, anyways, it was confused, but just it was worse. But I just remember looking at him and being like, I'm just gonna put you on mute, sir. Like,
so it's a rolling machine.
yeah,
like,
but
like
he
a
can
tablet?
operate his role like someone pushes him around. So he's just there with his camera on. They came and had to turn him around. It was horrible. But I mean, he was smart. He figured out stuff for her. So it was cool. But
And mute.
yeah, that was rough.
I don't know how to deal with human emotion. That's why I'm on a machine.
Yeah.
So going in, all you really remember is like a chaotic and the clanking sounds?
I hear the sound, which must have been when they were unloading me, or what I probably think it was when they were transferring. They got me in and they were transferring me from the stretcher to the bed. And like all the doctors and nurses were probably
the calamity
like getting me transferred and hooked up and all that good stuff. So I think that is probably what it was. Or it could have been when they loaded me on the ambulance and they were starting my IV, because I do remember a like, ouch, which my IV was over here. So that definitely was what I felt when it was like, ouch. Okay. But yeah, and then I remember elevator music, and I just remember thinking then, like, obviously I was like so exhausted and tired, but my body was like locked out of itself. So like, it was so weird. It was like I could think, but I couldn't think. Like I could say a thought, but I couldn't feel or interpret anything because my body was just so done. Like I remember laying there thinking like, this is cool. I didn't know what it was.
You
but
existed in the moment, but without being able to.
I existed, but like I didn't have any capacity to go much further than that.
Right.
Like that. Yeah, I didn't have much. Yeah, I couldn't like feel.
Yeah.
Or process.
It's almost like your brain you were still there.
Yeah.
But all the information coming in, your brain was like, no,
it's
not right now.
so weird. It was like someone,
her.
It was like protection. Someone like described it as like my brain locked itself out of itself, my body.
Nothing physically
wrong.
It was all psychological. Like it was just your head.
All psychological. So it was like my brain was telling my body.
Like, so like hysterical blindness and.
Yeah. So nothing was physically blocking
Nothing was physically wrong with me.
It was literally her mind just telling her.
My mind was just locking itself out of itself.
Which is crazy.
It was so weird. But yeah, I remember the clanking sound, the MRI music, and then I remember whenever Cole was holding up numbers in front of me and I could see it, and I told him, and he was like, you can see. And I was like, I've always been able to see. I was so confused. I was like,
So
time was very weird for you in that moment.
Very much. And then I thought that I'd had a C-section because of where I was on the stretcher. I thought I had a C-section and something went really, really wrong in the C-section, and I was waking up in recovery. So I was asking about Jane because immediately, and that just goes to show like emotion and how much you feel for your kids, because I couldn't think about anything but I knew that she was born. And so, like,
and you had memory, so you kept asking me.
I had no memory, but I did know that
95 times.
Yeah.
Like, where's Jane? She's okay. She's okay.
Right.
Okay.
And I think it's just like that. You just love your kids so much, because that was the one thing that I knew was true, was that she was born, and I just was like, how is she? Where is she? Because in that moment, I thought she was just born, and something has happened. Did something happen during delivery, and like she's not okay?
Your brain is trying to make sense of the situation. And the last time you were in the hospital, you were pregnant.
I had Jane. Yeah. So.
And then we were discharged the next day. Which is crazy.
Oh yeah.
Which is so weird.
When we heard that you went from
totally
can't
do anything
for longer than you were in that situation, we didn't know the updates.
Right.
So for us, you existed in this almost vegetable state.
Right.
In our heads for a good amount of time that you were already coming back out of it.
Yeah.
So the next day we wake up and it's like, oh no, they're coming home today. I'm like,
they're being discharged. Yeah.
What?
It blew my mind too. The doctors, I was like,
I didn't feel ready at all.
Like, explain to me how this is even possible.
Right. How long did that take y'all to accept that there was nothing?
Yeah.
Because that would be where I would struggle.
Still wondering why.
So I have a theory, and it's 100% a joke.
All right, let's hear it.
So I didn't know it was all psychosomatic until just now. psycho. A lot of times that's triggered by trauma.
Mhm.
Your joke was so bad. Your joke was so bad.
Yeah.
Her brain said, "We can't handle this no
handle
more."
It's nonsense.
We need to rest for the next
Yeah.
12 hours. We're shutting him out.
I think, yeah. No, and honestly, they did tell us something.
Yeah.
They just said, like, it's exhaustion. They basically said your body's putting out too much, creating all this for
Yeah.
Jane. You're not sleeping enough. Or
But I'm like, I mean, y'all have never nursed a baby, but like,
Nope.
Yep.
I'm in the hospital feeling helpless.
Mhm.
All while my body still thinks I'm nursing a baby. I was miserable.
Oh, no.
Like everything, head to toe, I was in pain and I was miserable and it was just awful.
Mhm.
So when he told us that we could go home, I was like, I don't want to go home. Like, I don't have
I
any
want you to
help there.
fix
I want you to
this.
fix me and like just take care of me. And I just been laying in this hospital bed for like 5 more days because at that moment I felt totally and completely helpless. Like I was like, there's no possible way. And I even told him when we got home the next day, I was just crying because I was like, there's no way I can take care of my kid. Like I am essentially a vegetable.
Yeah.
Like I can talk, but like everything hurts. I can't think, process. There's no way I can remember when to feed her and remember. Like I was like, I cannot take care of my kid. Like
And then you found out you weren't alone.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then I found out there
yeah.
was a house full of people
Uh-huh.
here, and I was gonna be fine.
I was about to bring that up. Just
So much
honestly,
food.
So
So
much
much food.
food.
We had to turn away food or so much. But I mean, on a serious note, like I think we thought in the beginning like we've always just been like we can handle it, we can do it. We had a kid, we're like it'll be easy, it won't be a big deal, you know. And then you know, it was a hard 2 weeks, and I don't think we like really accepted help like we should
No.
have.
We
didn't.
didn't
But then we finding out like
at all.
in the moment, you know, that night, seeing my friends come up, family there, Shauna there. Her sister drove a few hours to come in. My mom drove through the night to get up here. And when we came home, we were just
And Ty
surrounded
was at
by-
that's what I told him the other
Yeah.
night. It's like the one. There's a lot of memories with like them, but my like memory that I will have of Ty for the rest of my life is that it was his car that was there when I was discharged. Like, and I didn't even know who called him. I knew obviously he had been called, but like he was there and he was the one that drove us home. Like people just showed up.
They brought, I
big
mean, they went
time.
and like bought a cooler and brought all her like milk and stuff in the
Yeah.
car, and just, you know, it was so good, like in that moment, especially whenever you were still not whatever
Yeah.
I saw, and it was just like having friends, having people
Yeah,
around.
because the
And
night
then
we
after
left
that,
for our
it was,
induction on February the 1st, our parents were, both of our moms were here.
Oh,
And-
for that whole 2 weeks almost.
Yeah. So they came the night of my induction, and it got called off and pushed back that night. Then they called me and said, "We've got a room, come on."
Yep.
So we left them here, and we were just talking on the way. Like my mom was just, you know, there was tension and like everybody felt it, and we were just like, we can do it, we can handle it, and they were trying to help, but we were like, we didn't know what we were doing, and it kind of felt like we wanted the privacy to like figure it out. But with a new baby, that is absolutely not appropriate to be by yourself to figure it out. Like absolutely no context is that appropriate. So if you're watching and you think, I'm going to send my family home and me and my husband are just going to have 2 weeks, don't do it. Keep your family around as long as they will stay. So just, that I was grateful to have them the second go round because I was like, okay, I can't do
you
this.
didn't have to do it. Like
I didn't have to do
and I didn't
it.
have to either. We had
Oh.
people surrounding
Your,
it.
It
your
was
definition of we changed.
Yeah.
Oh, I stopped
For sure.
by a few times.
Yeah.
And
You brought us
There
a
was
massive
food.
box of diapers, which was
Yes.
so helpful. I didn't know how
That
fast
was
to
that-
go
I
through
don't know if that was
those.
before or after, but I know there was like a few food shipments.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have.
I would
A lot.
I would
groceries
show up
for-
at church and I would leave. I was like, no, I'm going home. They're like, well, we don't know how to get this to call. And I was like, I can take it to call. And I like
Trays.
just trays of casseroles.
Yeah.
And
Tons
It
of
was
stuff.
great.
It's not a lot of
It was
freezer space
awesome.
right there.
We have a second fridge.
even,
Oh, good
even
call.
the
Good
other
call.
no, even this
It was
fridge
like-
and the other fridge were
Yeah.
like there was
Slammed.
stuff in the outside freezer that was like we might get to go through this.
Yeah.
It took us forever.
So
to get it.
much.
Yeah, I mean that whole experience, having a baby and then
Mhm.
having that happen to her. I mean, again, I'm not trying to make it about me, but like in that moment, it's like you just realize what's important. I mean, and you realize
Oh,
like
definitely.
I'm sitting there looking at like my wife, who I love more than anything, thinking like is she going to be here? Is she not? Like, how am I going to do this? And then when she's back, you just, gratitude is just to a whole new level of every moment counts. You know, all the stuff that you think matters in the world doesn't matter. Like,
No.
at all.
Well, and I think that's a perfect segue into what we want to talk about next, which is I was going to start this entire segment as a joke. And it's like, today we're gathered with, 901s, what was it? What was your position? Creative director and the 2 production coordinators.
Yeah.
But I mean, former.
Right. So now that is former for all of us.
Yeah, when you guys quit on me, I just couldn't handle the pressure.
Hold on. We're going to
was
totally not ignore the fact that Cindy just walked through the back of the set. There is no backdrop
You
there.
could have belly crawled or anything. No, that's
That was
fantastic.
fantastic.
It's like dragging a chair right as we start recording. It has to happen some point.
Yes.
Cindy.
But
Absolutely.
as we said, Cole was the creative director.
Mm-hmm.
Was.
But he has fallen to the curse of this podcast.
Oh my goodness. Do we need to talk about the curse too?
We'll just mention it like this.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. Okay.
Yeah. We're cursed.
Just know.
Let us know if you want an interview.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you guys quit, and I couldn't handle the pressure, and I fell apart. I went into hard days.
Totally.
No, I mean, yeah, you say was. We've been at 901 Church. We've been here in Memphis for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, around that time, we kind of felt the Lord like leading us to, maybe not necessarily at that point, he wasn't leading us anywhere, but like that definitely shifted our perspective big time. And not only that, but it also changed our plans. Like, Kat had planned to finish school.
Yeah. I went out
done this summer.
kicking and screaming over that, but it's all for a purpose.
Yeah.
I was like hanging on for dear life, like, I can do this. And Cole's like, why don't you take a leave of absence?
Yeah.
So anyways, instead of graduating July of this year, it'll be July of next year.
Yeah.
So push
And,
that back.
So that pushed that back our plans, which kind of like opened up some doors and opened up like some like strange little opportunities for us. It just like we're not bound to Memphis anymore kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we kind of started thinking about, we're like, do we need to move in general? Like, we got this big house and all this stuff. It's like, maybe we just get something smaller. We're kind of just thinking through stuff like that. And then around March, so that all happened in February, like the middle of February.
Mm-hmm.
And then a month later, we went through 21 days of prayer and fasting with our church. And we just spent a lot of time praying, like, about, hey, what we thought we were planning is changing, or do you have other plans for us, or we just say, do we leave, kind of thing. And I didn't like leave Memphis, but do we just leave our house? Do we leave where we're at? Do we do something different? And at the end of that, we kind of felt like God was leading us to like kind of say like, hey, your time at this place may not be forever, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, like because we kind of thought it was always going to be forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess about a month or so later, we had some time off. And we both were just praying, and just at the end of that, felt like the Lord was just leading us to leave 901, to leave Memphis, kind of just in like that our time here was done, kind of thing. And so, sorry guys, I had a burp, and I was just
let
like,
it out.
We know you're crying.
I'm like trying to not, but anyways. Yeah, we're gonna edit this out.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of
And
podcasts,
too-
and they say that, and they never edit it out. So you guys can leave that in there. But
Yeah.
And the 2 weeks that we were home, I think it's good to mention, like,
Mm-hmm.
when we had that time off, like, there were so many people that just loved Jane so much. And, like, our family was present. So it was, like, the smallest things of, like, I want to feed her, and I want to change her diaper, and I want to play with her. It's like, oh, my God, like, having help and people
Yeah.
around is a game changer with
Oh,
a
yeah.
baby.
Mhm.
And it does them even more good than it does me. Like, for them to be
Mhm.
around her and see her is like, I mean,
You're like doing them a favor, and for you, you're like,
Exactly.
no, you're helping
Yeah.
They say
me.
You're
that
helping
grandparents
me.
live longer when their grandkids are around. So we're like
Yeah.
trying to help them out with that too.
Nice to
Keep
know.
them living longer.
That is good
So,
to
yeah.
know.
My in-laws live right, across the carport
There
from
you
me.
go. There you go. But yeah, I mean, it's a life. I mean, crazy thing for us. We didn't think that would happen, but we
Mhm.
especially didn't think we'd move closer to family. We always kind of thought we were going to stay in this area, and we always said we weren't going back to Mississippi. And
I've
I think
heard
that
you
was
say that
a-
multiple
Oh,
times.
yeah.
You're like, no, we're out of
Yeah.
Mississippi. We're staying out of Mississippi.
I think that because like for all the Mississippians, Mississippi's not a bad place. We grew up there, but we just kind of had like we need to get up and leave because we're awesome and we're better than our state. You know, we're not going back there. We're gonna do big things.
So I think, you went to Tennessee.
Yeah, Tennessee. But I think again, it's pride and it's silly, but like this whole thing really reminded us, like, hey, none of that stuff matters. Like what matters is your people, your community, your family, and especially our family. Like we're moving back to Mississippi and be a lot closer to family, a lot closer to them, and just for their sake and to be around Jane, but for ours too, just to kind of spend some time with her and with them, especially for this first year of Jane's life. And so, yeah, I mean, leaving 901 is it's going to be tough for sure. I think I was telling someone today, I was trying to describe it like we're moving, like, you know, the feeling you get if you move far away from home, you kind of feel like this. Sometimes you can feel like this loneliness, you know, it's like everything's changed. And I was saying how like we felt that when we went to college and a little bit when we moved, but we had already been away from home. I said, now we're going back home, but like as cliche as it sounds, like we're leaving home too. Like we're leaving in another way, the home that we've built here. And like Kat said, we grew up in Mississippi, but we like from kids, but we like grew into adults here, and we've built like a life here. And so it's just it's a lot. It's sad. Yeah. So
I think it throws even more emotion into it when it's like your first child was born here and like this is the house you brought her home to. I'm not looking forward to looking at her empty room. That's gonna like probably just sting it, because so many nights just spent wondering like, will you ever sleep again? Like, are we ever gonna get back to normal life again? Like so many thoughts and like just worries, and we're in that room and it's like, you know, now she's 4 months old and she sleeps 10 hours in it.
You have something else to look forward to. Years down the road, you'll have to explain to her, no, you were born in Tennessee.
I know.
Yeah. Right? Like you were born in Tennessee.
You were born in Tennessee. Yeah.
I mean, and there's some definitely sadness leaving, but we are excited. I mean,
we are.
Mainly just because we feel like we're doing what God's leading us to do. There's a lot of confidence in that.
And it's interesting because my clinicals I was supposed to do in the spring and summer, I had like the worst time ever finding a preceptor, which is so not normal for most people.
What was that word?
Preceptor.
So someone who would teach me.
It does.
Like I would be under someone who was training me. Normally that's, exactly. Normally that's not hard to find, but like for some reason it
Especially
was nearly impossible. No.
Yeah, like this area.
There's Lebaner and there's Lebaner Clinic. Like it shouldn't have been that hard. And we had like resorted to the summer. I was going to pay a ton of money to some lady who does it, but she charges. And we were like, that's literally the only option. Wow. So it was so hard to find somebody, and my commitments with them were already so like rocky, and it just didn't feel good. So I mean, I guess the lesson learned was you can go into things. I don't think it's wrong to plan. You got to have a plan. Like you got to have, you know, thinking about where I'm going and what I want to do. Like you got to plan. But when that plan becomes like that's the only way it's going to happen, that's when it gets dangerous. And so
then the Bible verse, like the man like plans his ways, but the Lord directs his steps.
Yeah.
So like we can plan, and that's a good thing. But I think we've learned like in this season, like, hey, we have a plan, but God's gonna guide what we're saying.
Don't hang on to it so hard. So it makes so much. I've told people like, I'm so glad that the Lord knows more than me, like what I need, because I thought what I needed in this season and what was going to be great for me was to graduate on time, when actually I've been a stay-at-home mom for 4 months and I never thought that was going to be a reality for me ever in my life. And it's been like the coolest, best thing ever to see all of her growth and development and to be the person that like sees her role for the first time, you know? And a lot of people have to send their kids to daycare, and there's like, that's a reality that for many people.
Definitely.
And you pick them up and someone else tells you like, hey, she said her first word today, or she rolled. But it's just been such a blessing that like we actually didn't have to go that route, because the Lord knew like you're going to need her in this, and she's going to need you, and graduation can wait. And I'm not even keeping you here. You're going somewhere else anyways. Right. So it just all.
And now she gets to go she's got a job that's lined up that's
Yes.
great. But she's going to work, and I'm going to be a stay-at-home dad.
We're
and I'm
switching
pumped about that.
places.
So,
Yeah.
spend time with my girl. So,
We're switching places.
So
So
what's
I'll go
really-
back to work and he will stay home.
What's really cool is y'all are talking about, you have a plan, but God guides the steps, and I kind of hit the same season recently where it's like, whatever you do for the glory of God.
yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, you can make plans, but keep walking the way you're supposed to walk, keep
Mhm.
following the path,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just do everything you do for the glory of God.
Mhm.
absolutely.
And it is freeing.
Yeah.
It really is, because for the first time in a long time, it's like, it doesn't matter what comes up tomorrow as long as I keep doing what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Mhm.
And oh yeah, like this year I've had a few expenses with my house. Like, it tried
Yeah.
to catch itself on fire with some electrical problems. I had
Gotta
to
love
replace the roof, and when I talk about it, I joke about it now. But it's like, yeah, I was put in a position to be able to fix it,
Yeah.
and I've been able to.
Yeah.
You had great plans, and you're talking about graduating on time. You're still going to graduate on time.
Yeah.
It's just not your plan.
It's not my time. Yeah.
I think
Which I'm
we-
so grateful that it's not my time, because mine would have meant that I didn't get the time with that little girl that I've gotten, which would have been, I mean, looking back at what we've
Been
done
terrible.
the last 4 months, that would have been devastating. Like, I
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
have known what I missed. And that
Correct.
breaks my
Yeah.
heart to know that I would have thought, like, I'm doing all this good, graduating on time, and somebody else has my kid 3 days a week when she's brand new.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to go back weeks after she was born. Not even a typical maternity leave for most people. Way shorter. So,
Just to fit your schedule.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to make it work. So, I think, yeah, in this season, I've just learned, like, make plans. It's great.
Yeah.
The plan cannot be the absolute final word.
Mhm.
And also, like, humility. I got humbled.
Yeah.
If the whole hospital experience was for me to be humbled, I would believe that that's what, because I was so hard-headed going into what
Yeah.
happened, and so like, I don't need help, I don't want, and not because I was like being mean about, I'm not good at accepting help.
Mhm.
So, and with our families, like, it was from a place of like, we want to do it by ourselves and we don't need your
Some
help.
sense
We
of
don't.
pride, some
Yeah.
sense of-
Yeah, exactly. So I
That's
think
that's any child with a parent involved in something.
Right.
Yeah.
And the cool part is, right, if we just take it all back and wrap it into a big bubble, is that you went from, we want to do all these things, you left to go to the hospital, and you're like, it's chaos, families around,
Uh-huh.
to where on the other side of this, you look at family, just a totally different view.
Yeah.
It's
Totally
no
different.
longer, we want to do these things. Now it's,
Yeah.
let us do these
what's
things.
most
Well, I
important.
think too,
yeah.
like, you think about our relationship with Jane has changed our relationship with our parents. I feel like so much.
Yeah.
Like, we think about how much we love her and how much we would do anything for her, and then we think about our parents, and it's like they see us in the same way. You know?
Mhm.
And I think
That's why they drove through the night to be here.
Right.
That's why
right.
they were here for weeks after everything happened.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I
That's
remember coming
amazing.
over and just, it was one or both of your
Yeah.
moms here at
Yeah.
the same
Doing
time.
stuff.
Yeah.
That's it's just that's what I meant earlier, but it's like a different kind of love. And I talked to Kat probably a month or so in, and we just kept talking about how much we love Jane and just how much we love her. And I thought, you know, I haven't had the best relationship early on with my dad. Things have gotten better now. There's been some rocky things with Kat and her dad, but you know, we think about like father figures, stuff like that, just being a father. A lot of times we try to relate that to the Lord because He's our Father and all that. And I always talked about that, but like I didn't understand it
Mhm.
until I went, wait a second. Jane has never done anything to earn our love. She's never done anything to make us love her or to give us any gifts or give us anything to earn it. We just do, and we would give our life for hers. And it was like this realization of like, that's how God sees us. And,
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's like a
like, it doesn't
picture
matter what
of
we've done, what
the
we've gone through.
gospel.
Like He
Yeah.
sees us as His kid, and that was just like, talk about crying. I mean, we were
Yeah.
just crying. I was just like, it's crazy seeing that that
Mhm.
change, and it teaches me something new every day with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 of trusting the Lord with all your heart,
Mhm.
being on your own understanding. We talk all the time. I just don't understand. I don't understand why this happened. I don't understand why these things, whatever. And I think that's the whole point of that verse is like,
Mhm.
don't lean on your own understanding.
Right.
Trust in Him. That's what we said earlier. he'll make your path straight. And for us, that's just kind of been our journey, I think, of really having to like live that verse out of like trust him and he'll make your path straight.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but and that's
Lots learned from this last season.
easy to say, but a lot harder to live out when
Yeah.
you're in the ambulance, you know. So,
And I've said multiple times, because I'm a nurse and about to be an NP, like, I knew the benefits of breastfeeding, and like, I was so, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, like, this is how it's going to, and I think that was another thing that like, was just like control. So there's so many times that I think about like, I wish I could go back in time, and I wish I could go back to the night of February 1st and do things so different. When we pulled out of the garage for that induction, I wish I could do so many things different. But then I'm like, no, I don't. Because I learned so much and I grew so much out of this season. And I have relationships mended that were broken that night.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I wouldn't change a thing. I would do everything the same if it meant that on this side I learned what I learned and I'm going to be better for it.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to walk into, Lord willing, if we have more kids, I'm going to walk into a second kid with like a totally different outlook on my people and my family and like what it means to, have them and how much they care about me.
It'd be a lot easier to go, oh, you want to watch Jane for 3 days while
Yeah,
we go to the hospital?
Exactly.
You know?
You can do that. Yeah.
100%, big time.
Yeah. So would I change it? To some extent, I'm like, yeah, I would say things a little differently, but like truly deep down, I'm like, no, I would be so sad to know that I didn't learn and grow through what I have gone through. And I would just miss all the lessons, which is, they were vital, necessary for me.
It's part of growing up, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you youngins.
Growing up fast, yeah.
So I want to wrap with a couple stories, a couple things that happened. So when Cole first came on the scene, he was hyped. He was hyped so much to me and Jesse and Cody. Because at the time, that was production.
That was it.
That was all production. Your hype man fed me so much about you. And then you came in the first day, and I looked at you. I said something, and you laughed, and I'm like, cool, he's awesome. We're here. I was like, cool. So you're going to go to him, and you're going to tell him we don't like each other, is what I told Cole. I was like, you're going to go tell him. I was like, go tell him I can't stand him, so I'm going to say the same thing. So we did, and the look on this guy's face, I was like, man, I don't know if I can work with him. He just doesn't flow with the culture, which was the big push, right? Like, be part of the culture.
You're saying that trigger word.
Oh, I was. And he just, like, his shoulders dropped, his face dropped, and then I couldn't hold it anymore. I just started, we both just started laughing. It was great.
It was good.
And that was Cole and I's first, interaction.
From the very beginning.
And then a couple weeks ago, when Cole texted the three of us and said, hey, I want to meet for breakfast. I want to talk about the podcast.
And you
I
got
called
me like
Jack,
a book.
and I go, BS. I said, he is either leaving, and then Jack said that, or we're not allowed back.
I knew when I sent it, they're going to send something. Again, I'm not very good with that stuff.
Right.
You just know what's coming. So it's like, oh, let's just get lunch. Let's get breakfast, whatever. I knew that you were going to be like,
yeah. So immediately, Jack and I started talking about it, and it was either he's leaving or we're not allowed back at the church.
And Jesse was just like, we're getting together for breakfast. That was as far as I thought of it.
It's amazing.
But that's for not for anything though, but for you to send a text like that and the transparency and relationship we have to immediately know, no, something else, something big is going on. I want to say I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your mentorship and everything you've done for me personally. It's been amazing.
For sure, man. I appreciate you and all you guys. And I also appreciate another great story of when Tim told a bunch of people to throw dodgeballs at me and ripped my leg in half. And not walk for 8 weeks.
Well, hold on. Let's say the whole story. I convinced a room full of teenagers to throw dodgeballs, very soft.
That were already throwing dodgeballs.
They were already throwing dodgeballs.
Yeah.
And these weren't like the growing up in the 90s era dodgeballs. These were foam.
These are
very soft snowflake dodgeballs.
And spin it any way you want to, man.
And Cole,
the dodgeball wasn't what the problem.
Cole, scared for his life, from these teenagers bolted towards the stage,
Yeah,
and something stopped working right before he got to the stage.
it's awesome.
It was his whole leg. You tore
ACL, LCL, hamstring, and a sprain
Sprain,
my
PCL,
PCL and MCL.
and MCL.
right.
So the whole knee.
The whole knee.
Yes.
So it quit right before. I think you went to go push off of it to
Yeah.
jump,
And just
and everything stopped, and he smacked the stage.
And then I went to the back room to cry, and these jokers came back there and were
Hold
like,
on. I didn't come back to laugh because I turned to Kat, who was studying, and I said, "Hey, I think Cole just got hurt," and she just peeked over. She went, "He'll be all right."
Appreciate it, babe. Love it.
and went back to studying. And
I
then,
mean, you can't deny that sometimes, like, you're just dramatic to be funny. Like,
well,
He was in front of a bunch of youth, so
he
I could
was.
see
yeah.
They threw dodgeballs at him. He's going to act
I'm
like, oh, I'm
injured.
so hurt. Yeah, no.
Except he got to the back room and he's like, I'm so
I'm
hurt.
so hurt.
this is the funniest, the best thing I love about Kat, because I went down, found out Cole was actually hurt. And I was like, hey, I called somebody, I was like, hey, get Kat down here. Something's wrong. And so Kat goes down, then I go back out to handle the rest of production and get everybody gone for the night. And Kat turns to Cole and goes, Tim's going to think I'm a monster.
So yeah, I'll be all right. Does this all the time.
He'll be fine. Just leave it.
It was the nonchalant, oh, he's fine. And then so from what I was told, she felt so bad.
Yeah.
I just
She
feel
was like, I
awful.
can't believe I did
How long ago
that.
was that now?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
like,
2.5?
We're coming up on 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years? Yeah.
3
It's been
years.
forever.
We
Yeah.
we named your calves when you first got here.
So
Your
this,
surgery was
Yeah.
May, so it would have been 3 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so when you first got here, you had the tendency to show off your calf muscles.
Yeah.
So
Of an Olympian.
And we're
Jesse and I named him
Well,
Yeah.
Igor and Boris.
Boris and Igor. And then we had a sad moment when you had to go to physical therapy.
Yeah, because Boris over here is strong.
Like, Igor's not there anymore, man. like he just bowed out.
What a time.
But
It was good. But seriously, I went to a joke there, but I was telling someone the other day, like, we were just talking about church, talking about community, we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
like, life and what's worth, like, living and stuff like that. And truly, like, what is the church? It's a community. What's a community? It's your people you're around. And, like, I was telling someone over lunch the other day, like, seriously, these 3 years have been great that we've been here, but it's because of who we've been around. And it's because of, in a lot of seasons we went through, people in this room were like our steady, and they were like constant. And
pain meds, 8 a.m. Chick-fil-A.
yes, yes. When I'm like in my worst state possible, and getting that Chick-fil-A and my leg is screaming. But truly, I mean, I don't know. It would not have been the same without you guys. It wouldn't have been the same without the relationships we've had, and how we've all grown and all have evolved. And it's one of those things where I know it's not like, I'm confident it's not like going to end here. Like, it's lifelong friendships and relationships. And I'm not the best about texting. Apparently, I never text him, but I mean it. Like, we're going to keep up, and I just mean it. It is, and y'all are just the best. And I couldn't have asked for better people to be surrounded by. And when people told us all the time about like what we're at, and like we're the best, like it's the best place ever. We're surrounded by the best people. We lived in one of the worst houses you could live in. And I was like, we love it because we're surrounded by the best people ever. And I think that makes all the difference. It really does. So I love y'all. Y'all are awesome.
No.
And there's a lot of others, for sure, but y'all are the real deal. So
I mean, honestly, cutscene owes its
Yeah.
start to you. Because Jesse and I were sitting up in the booth just
We've joked for years
I
about
just hit the
doing
button.
it. You did. I see you did
that's
that.
all I do.
We've joked for years about doing it, but never had the opportunity because we never had anyone that could say yes.
Yeah.
And because you were there and available and said yes,
You-
that's the reason
yeah.
we're here.
we joked. You said, "Yeah, go for it," and we were like,
We looked at each other like,
we're doing this."
Look, and I remember the first day when we went back there and we were about to record the first episode. I was like sitting in the chair, I was like, this ain't gonna happen, and it didn't feel real. Even now,
Yeah.
sitting here, season 3, it's
even first pilot episode, the name we came up with.
yeah, we changed it. Yeah.
So and we'll say it now because we're seasons in. We came up with the non-essentials.
Yeah.
Because our joke was we're not talking about anything serious. and we
And
took
here we are.
an existing podcast room of the essentials,
Call
and
it
I
the
literally
Essentials.
had someone take a picture of us. I took my phone, wrote "non,"
There it
and
is.
and put it on there. It went to the pastor, and pastor went, "They need to change their name." And Jesse and I
We
heard,
were like,
"That's a
permission.
green light.
That's a green
That's our green
light.
light."
That means we're
Like,
good. Just
they
change
can-
the name.
all they
Yeah.
need to do is change their names. Like that means everything else is a go.
Right, yes.
Hey, it
that
was
was
worth
3
it.
years ago.
Those were like 14. No, those were like 18-hour days for me because they
Oh,
were
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wednesdays. It was after youth, and we were so
Yeah.
late. But there were some nights I was probably falling asleep in the chair, but it was worth it. It was
There
a lot
were
of fun.
there were a couple times where Cole, we would just call him. He like, all right, I'm remoting in. I'm recording. Go for it. And
Oh
then,
yeah, we were in Nashville one time.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the wives episode or something like that.
So,
Something.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
was. That was when Jack was like, hold up. And I was like, oh, man, I'm just testing to see if y'all listen.
Yeah, that was
good.
great. Well,
it's good times.
Cole and Kat, thank y'all so much.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
We wouldn't be doing this without y'all. We love y'all so much. I think on that one we get to do the for cutscene conversations. I'm Tim.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Cole.
I'm Kat.
We'll see you next time. I was like, what is going on? And I look, she goes, she pooped.